Well, I can't believe that 2022 is already drawing to a close. It's crazy. I feel like this year lasted forever, but also went by in the blink of an eye. But today, I'm going to tell you why it was my best year ever while I ride my motorcycle. But first, a cold start on an Aprilia Tuono V4 1100 factory 2017 with an SE Project CRT exhaust. Hi, I'm Chad and welcome to Virtual Reality, where I like to start my vlogs because it is a place where we can do wheelies. Back to reality. So in today's video, I thought with it being the end of the year, it would be a good time to just do a little bit of reflection and also sharing of some of the adventures I have been so fortunate to experience in 2022. So with that, let's talk about Tuono stuff. Coming up on 2 years of ownership of my 2017 Aprilia Tuono V4 1100 factory here, and had another great year with her on the whole. Experienced my first issue after almost 2 years of ownership with the transmission shift shaft coming loose, or where the shift rod through the gearbox bolts on to actuate the shift drums, I believe. Moto Club of Santa Monica fixed that up while I had the bike in for the annual service, but it was producing some weird shifts when I was going to both mostly upshift but also occasionally downshift. Whether it was using the quick shifter or not, it was weird. It was like the bike would need to catch the next gear with like load before you could shift to another gear. So if you just pulled the clutch in while you were rolling and tried to click through 2 gears, wouldn't catch the second gear. And there was a lot of play, like idle play in the shifter too, probably because the thing was just flopping around there, not being secured tightly to the rest of the shifting mechanisms inside the gearbox. But got that all sorted out, and she shifts just like she did before. So that's good. Also had my 12,500 mile service done a little bit early, like 12,200 or 100 or something. Just wanted to get it out of the way before I took her to the racetrack again. So I got that done in October. All 16 valves on the rear bank were out of spec, but got them all in spec and now they're all good to go. Unfortunately, did get the bike back with an oil leak from the valve cover gasket, but Moto Club fixed it, so she's not leaking anymore. And they also replaced the little O-rings between the cam tower and the cylinder head that I had a minor leak start to develop from a couple hundred miles or maybe 1,000 miles before I was due for the valve service. So I just figured, stick a Q-tip in there in the little weep hole that it was leaking out of or dripping out of occasionally, and just do that as part of my regular chain maintenance. So I did that, never had an issue with it, and now it doesn't leak anymore. So that's lovely too. No more Q-tips. Got a track day in on her back in March. Willow configuration 13A counterclockwise. It was my first time riding that direction, and the only time I've ridden that direction now. But I had a great time. Managed to get 2 whole track days out of a rear Pirelli Supercorsa TD SC3. Although at the end of that second day, which was in March, the first was in November of last year, I was sliding around quite a bit and had to dial up my traction control. And then took her out to the track in October. That was when I discovered the leaking valve cover gasket, so that was a bummer. Dave Moss had set up my suspension that morning before the first session of the day, so I was really looking forward to giving it a shot. And you know, that first session felt great. The bike felt the best it's ever felt before in that first session. Dave raised my rear ride height a little bit after I had already brought the bike up on the forks a little bit. The forks had been rebuilt just a few months before that. And you got my compression, rebound, and preload all dialed in on everything, and man, this bike feels fantastic now. I wish I could have gotten more time on track with it, but so it goes. There'll be more opportunities next year. But yeah, that's the scoop on the Tuono. I put out a 1-year ownership review at the start of the year that has actually become, I think, my second most viewed video on YouTube, only behind the Tuono V4 Factory and Tuono V4 RR comparison video that I made back in 2021. So that's kind of cool. And beyond that, I got to try a bunch of different bikes out this year. I got to ride a Ducati Panigale V4R 2020 on the track, as well as a 2015 Yamaha R1 race bike. So, whew, wow, what incredible experiences those were. And thank you to Austin and Sean for letting me swing a leg over those beauties. Check those videos out up here. Now, in other motorcycle related things, I raced an entire club season this year and ended up being the Amateur 600 Supersport champion with the California Road Race Association, also known as CRA. So that's pretty cool. I did that on my Daytona 675R track bike. It's a 2012, fully converted for track and race use. And I started racing last year, only did 3 rounds, but got my bearings a little bit and came back this year swinging. I won the first Amateur 600 Supersport race of the season, which was also my maiden race victory. Won it by 0.024 seconds after I messed up and missed a downshift on the last corner, coming out onto the front straight on the last lap. Luckily for me, had enough of a gap throughout the rest of the race to not get just blown by at the line by an R6, but I almost did. He passed me after we went across the line, so whew, that was a struggle, but took my maiden victory. And then in the next race, the Amateur 600 Superbike race that was taking place later that same day, someone crashed in front of me on the warm-up lap, and I was too close to them, and there wasn't really anything I could do to not run them over, but crashed myself. So I crashed. Luckily I was alright though. The bike was a little bashed up and my airbag went off my race suit. My piece of GPRR was trash, of course, but I walked away okay. A little bruised and battered, but none the worse for wear. After that, I took a little bit of a hiatus because we were going through some other life-related events that I'll talk about a little bit later. But finally got the bike all fixed up in May, went out to Spring Mountain, which was really cool because I actually rode 3 new racetracks this year. Last year I had only ridden Chuckwalla Valley Raceway and Buttonwillow Raceway. This year I expanded. I went to Spring Mountain Motorsports Ranch in Pahrump, Nevada. I went to the famous WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca and raced with CRA, which we'll talk about in just a second. And I rode at Auto Club Speedway, which is a table stakes Southern California racetrack that is going to be demolished later in 2023 and rebuilt as just a NASCAR oval, and I don't think that they plan to have an infield course like they do today, so probably no more motorcycles, but we'll find out. Definitely got my fair share of track time in this year, as you're going to see as a theme as we continue to talk about this. But Spring Mountain was really cool. It's a much more technical track than a lot of the tracks that I've ridden before. Chuckwalla is all about carrying roll speed and just being able to keep your speed up through corners, carry a lot of momentum around the track. Not a lot of hard braking zones. The slowest speed that I'm going there now is about 47 miles per hour on the slowest corner, which is turn 9. Everywhere else I'm going a lot faster than that. Spring Mountain, there are a couple corners I needed first gear for. So that was a much different experience to what I had at previous racetracks, but still a lot of fun nonetheless. Auto Club was pretty crazy too. Got to go up onto the banking of a NASCAR oval on my Daytona 675R and get pretty close to the top of 5th gear when I had the stock gearing on the bike still. So that was pretty crazy. Also tried Pirellis that day for the first time, which I'm still riding on the Daytona and have been oh so sweet. But anywho, in that month of May we did Spring Mountain and then Auto Club Speedway at the end of the month. Did a Buttonwillow day in the middle of June, and then I think the week after that went to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for the second round of CRA's 2022 season. So Laguna Seca is by and far the best racetrack I have ever been to. Most fun in my opinion, without a doubt. The surface is super grippy and really smooth. I only noticed one bump on the entire track, just pretty incredible. It's a very fast track, and again was quite different from what I had experienced prior to 2022. A lot of straightaways, carrying a lot of speed. There's a couple places where you do have to brake very hard. But the thing that kind of got me was the straight line speed, because I'm a big boy at 6'3" and 225 pounds, and I'm on a middleweight bike that had stock gearing, a taller rear tire, which effectively raised my final drive, and a stock ECU flash, stock air filter, stock header with exit valve. So that put me at a bit of a disadvantage. Didn't do so hot in the first race, ended up finishing 5th when I qualified 2nd. But the second race got a little bit better, ended up finishing 3rd, but I learned that I need more power or more drive. On the whole, Laguna Seca was amazing. We stayed there for a few extra days. My lovely girlfriend Hillary came up with me, and we did the touristy stuff, went to the aquarium in Monterey Bay, ate at a nice restaurant, checked out Fisherman's Wharf. It was an amazing time. The track was amazing. It was a picture-perfect weekend, and I would love to do it again. If I could live that long weekend on a loop for like a few months, that would be ideal. So Laguna Seca was awesome. Takeaway of needing more acceleration. I decided to keep the 190/60 rear tire because I liked that extra edge grip, but I geared the bike down quite a bit. Ended up going down 1 in the front, up 2 in the rear. Did a 520 conversion, so less rotating mass means more horsepower to the ground. And then the chain that I ended up with was actually 2 lengths longer than the stock chain, so it effectively lengthened my wheelbase by 8 millimeters, which actually I've come to really like a lot. Makes the bike a little less twitchy, a little more stable in the corners and on exit, so I'm happy with the change. But that definitely changed my game in terms of the racing. Went out, tried it in July at Buttonwillow, running configuration 1 for the first time, which was very difficult, tough weekend. Second session of the day on Friday, the practice day. I glanced at my lap timer when I should have been paying attention to the corner I was trying to enter at like 100 miles an hour. Ended up coming in too early, running wide, went off the track into the dirt. Tried a little bit to slow down after I'd gotten through the bumpy patches of dirt and where it was soft, and unfortunately found a fence at the end of the property line. This ended up being a viral reel on Instagram, believe it or not, that has like 1.4 million views, I think. And a lot of people telling me I'm horrible at riding motorcycles and should stop now, but here I am. Despite pulling a muscle pretty badly in my hip, I ended up qualifying and racing that weekend, just to keep up with the title contention for the Amateur 600 Super Sport class. Ended up finishing 3rd, which I was pretty proud of, especially considering how exhausted I was and just in pain that weekend. So, pretty good salvage job in my book. Then in August, went back out to Buttonwillow for CRA's final round of the 2022 season, doing configuration 26 counterclockwise, which utilizes this long stretch of the track called the drag strip, as well as the Star Mazda corner we were taking in the opposite direction in July. So you were going fast. With the gearing, I was basically topping out 6th gear. Saw GPS verified 146 miles per hour, 147, getting pretty close to the top of 6th gear. So the bike was going fast, and that straightaway takes you into the fastest corner on the track at over 100 miles per hour. But went out there, again in extreme heat, both July and August, temperatures were in excess of 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Both race days we were looking at like 102, 103, 101. So pretty brutal conditions, but got it. Took the win in the Amateur 600 Super Sport race at round 4 and secured the 2022 Amateur 600 Super Sport title. So that feels pretty good. Going into this year, I had no idea I would be able to win races, let alone take a title. So I'm super proud of myself. I worked really hard for this to get to this point, and it feels so good to have something to show for it. I'm very fortunate and grateful. So once CRA wrapped for 2022, I took a break in September, went back and raced CVMA at Chuckwalla in October. I only raced on Saturday, so 2 races. I won the first one, which was pretty awesome and a nice surprise, especially after having not been at Chuckwalla since December of 2021, where I did a reciprocity round and was finishing barely in the top 10. Or I think not even quite in the top 10. I think I only had 1 top 10 finish when I did that out of 4 races. So that was something else. But really stoked on that. Took second place in the other race, brought home some trophies. It was a good weekend. Had another gap of time in November, went back out, raced at Chuckwalla, going counterclockwise this time in December. Had some mixed results throughout the weekend. I finished P5, P3, P2, and P4 respectively. Also had a big boof at the last race where I thought my bike was in gear and it wasn't when they dropped the flag, so I didn't go anywhere. That was a bit embarrassing. But that weekend I did get down to a smashing PB in my opinion at Chuckwalla, which was a 1 minute 53.417 second lap. I did that on the final lap of that first race on Sunday, which you can check out up here. It just felt like I was riding the wheels off of the bike. That was by far the fastest I've ever gone on a motorcycle, and I'm super happy for that result. It was hard fought for sure. So on some other racetrack racing related news, I made a lot of amazing friends this year and last year. Well, started friendships last year that have just culminated and become very, very great this year. But unfortunately, one of those friends, Josh Martin, who I'd spent a lot of time with, especially this year in the pits, passed away in an accident on the street, riding up in the canyons of the Angeles National Forest. So, still tough. It was super weird to go to the round at CVMA in December and not have him there in the pits with us, because he was there in October. He helped me unload my van at like 1 o'clock in the morning and just stayed up and kept me company. Cooked amazing food like he always did throughout the rest of the weekend. It was crazy. He was there and then he wasn't the next weekend. We had a nice little tribute for him at the last CVMA round, but it still sucks. It's the first time I've ever lost a friend to motorcycling, and I have to say I'm grateful it hadn't happened sooner, but at the same time, man, it really sucks, and Josh didn't deserve that. But I think about him pretty often, and I think about him a little extra when we are out at the track, doing what we all used to love to do together. So outside of the track life, had some big changes in my personal life this year. First, I got a new job that I started back at the beginning of March of this year. Incredible opportunity. I've been super happy there. I'm super fortunate to have an amazing team and manager, and to have done exceedingly well in my role this year, which has enabled me to literally live my dreams. So I'm super grateful for that. I've definitely put in a lot of hard work to get there and to perform there, but it just feels like a dream come true, honestly. So on top of that, my girlfriend and I bought a house, our first house, and that was happening at the same time that I was going through the whole job interview and onboarding process. So that's a lot. That's like 2 pretty major life events in the span of a few months. So wild stuff. But bought our house, moved from the Orange County area out to the Temecula Valley area. Absolutely love it out here. It was super hot this summer, but now that it's the winter time, it's actually really nice. Today I think the high is like 75. It's the end of December. Crazy. It's just beautiful out here. I like the open space, the more open roads. It's nice. It's really quiet where we live. I've got all the garage space now, which is great. Super happy with that decision that we made. But yeah, 2 pretty big things happening this year. Hillary's done super well and has been promoted multiple times. She's on a new project now. Things are going really well for us in that regard. So again, I'm just really grateful and feel super fortunate to be in the position that I'm in. And beyond that, I gotta say, I'm super grateful for each and every one of you that has watched one of my videos this year and shown me any kind of support. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been an amazing year, and I have been so happy to have been able to share it with you. My subscriber count's doubled from where it was at about this time last year, which is pretty awesome. I'm getting a couple hundred views here and there on videos recently, and it's also a lot of track stuff, which is pretty rad. The Tuono videos still get more views, but you all watching the track videos especially. If you're watching any of my videos, I appreciate you, but especially if you're watching my track and racing videos. Thank you. But seriously, thank you guys so much for your support of the channel and for the growth we've seen this year. Super excited to share what's in store for next year once we do get past the first of the year. Got some plans to keep on racing. And I do actually have one more surprise for you. So stay tuned later this week. And with that, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I would sincerely appreciate a gentle little click of the like button, and if you considered subscribing for more motorcycling adventures like this. Drop a comment below. How was your year? I hope it was fantastic and your best yet, and I wish you all the best in 2023. Let me hear the highlights of your year down in the comments below. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll hope to catch you in the next one. Until then, later.